It happened after chemistry class. Michael came up to me, which already alarmed me. What he said totally confused me. "Jane, you look great." I swallowed my tongue in surprise and couldn't say a word. Just so you know, at school, I was the black sheep. No one paid any attention to me, let alone give me any compliments. "Want me to walk you home?" he asked. All I could get out was, "Is this some kind of joke?" The guy, with the same strange smile, replied, "No, baby, I just want to walk you home." Before he could finish, Jake came up to us and asked me in a concerned tone, "Is this jerk bothering you?" Then he looked at Michael himself. "You should leave her alone." Michael looked at him angrily and blurted out, "What do you care? We were having a conversation, and Jane had agreed to let me walk her out." Now I intervened. "No, actually I didn't. You see," Jack was happy, "I'm the one who's walking her home." What? I was confused and didn't know what was going on. That's when Trent came over to us. "Jane, would you like to go to the movies tonight?" All three stuck to me like horseflies. Every one of them was saying something loud, but I didn't understand what it was anymore. All I could see was that it was going to turn into a fight. "You want me to walk you out?" Michael wouldn't let up. "How about me?" Jake echoed him. And somewhere in the back, Trent kept repeating his question. "So, shall we go to the movies?" "Leave me alone!" I yelled and ran for the bus. The door slammed shut behind me and all three of them were left outside the school. "Hi, my name is Jane, and one day all the guys in my class became obsessed with me." Phew, I exhaled in relief and sat on my empty seat. Usually people didn't notice me, but suddenly I got a lot of attention. I pulled out my phone and was about to play some music when I heard Derek's voice. "Jane, what beautiful eyes you have." I couldn't stop myself from screaming. What is going on? I don't usually get hit on by guys. They prefer someone like Susan or Tiffany with fancy hair and a fake laugh, and they pass me by like a pit in the middle of the road. Or they don't notice me at all and bump into me like a wall. "Hey, watch where you're going," I complained when another guy flew into me. "Oh, sorry, I didn't notice," they say and move on. I'm used to being the black sheep, a ghost who is only nominally present. But the fact that 3 guys got in a fight because of me? I wasn't used to it. When I ran out of the bus, punching Derek on the leg, I heard not insults, but declarations of love. "I love you, Jane!" Derek yelled. Rushing into my room, I threw my backpack on the bed and opened my laptop. Dozens of unread messages, and all of them were declarations of love, compliments, date invitations. I slammed the laptop shut and sat in silence, staring at the wall. Could this be a practical joke? "Let's be logical," I said to myself. "You're not popular, and not as beautiful as a top model. Then what could be the reason? There couldn't be that many guys conspiring together, could there?" I decided to call my best friend Monique. We once had the same problem. No one wanted to talk to us. We'd been inseparable ever since. Before I could say hello, Monique exclaimed, "Why do all the guys talk about you? How did you do that?" "Mon, I don't understand anything. It's like everyone's gone crazy. Derek said he loved me, even though I kicked him in the leg. Hey, have you been messing around with witchcraft conspiracies and voodoo magic?" "I wish," I said with a sigh, "but I had nothing to do with it." We exchanged a few more ridiculous versions. My mom's voice boomed, "Jay, dinner!" "Okay." "I have to go," I said to Monique. "Okay, we'll figure out what to do tomorrow." I didn't tell my parents anything about the love hysteria. I'd figure it out on my own. The next day, I woke up to someone screaming under the window. When I looked outside, I saw Michael. He was standing on the sidewalk waving at me. I had no idea he knew where I lived. I pulled the curtains and started getting ready for school. Clothes, some makeup, perfume, done. I timidly opened the front door and stepped outside. Michael, like Hashiko, was standing on the sidewalk and stared at me with eyes that sparkled with madness. "Don't you think it's creepy to stalk someone like that?" I asked him. He pretended not to hear the question. "Let me carry your things." Without waiting for my permission, he took my backpack and hung it on his shoulder. Well, let's just say we walked to the bus stop. Michael was silent and had a smile on his face the whole way. He looked like a psychopath at this point. I felt like he wasn't looking at me like a person. I thought he was looking at me like I was a tasty steak that he was about to eat. Monique pulled up to the bus stop in her brand new Prius. I snatched the backpack from Michael and got into the car quickly. Explaining would only make things worse. What was Michael doing here? My friend asked me in surprise. I shrugged. He was standing outside my window. Clinic, Monique diagnosed. When we pulled up to the school, I threw my hood over my head and put on black glasses. What was that for? My friend asked. For conspiracy, I replied. We have to sneak into class without being seen. Okay. Monique parked and we got out of the car. Look, can you see if Jake and Trent are there? Okay, if anything, I'll give you a sign. I waited by the car for 5 minutes. I was starting to think Monique forgot about me, but then I saw her waving her arms over her head. We hadn't agreed on a specific sign, so I thought it was okay. I was walking down the hall and I looked around, waiting for Derek to come around the corner with his creepy smile. As I turned the corner, I met a crowd of guys. They walked slowly around the classroom like zombies and seemed to be half whispering my name. Jane, Jane. It was definitely a warning signal. Don't walk. But it was too late. I felt a hand on my shoulder and almost squealed. It was Monique. She put her finger to her lips and whispered, "There are guys around here. How am I supposed to get through? I can distract them and you can sneak into class." I nodded approvingly. I wondered what Monique would do. She walked into the crowd of guys and she exclaimed pretentiously, "Did you see that? There's Jane fighting with Barbara." "Where?" asked Derek. "At the front door." She couldn't lie, but the madding crowd didn't care. They all rushed out into the street together. Monique came up to me. "Yeah, there seems to be some kind of lunar cycles involved." I calmly entered the classroom and took my seat. The class went on endlessly. Several pairs of eyes fixed on me were creepy. I spent the whole class wondering how to escape their intrusive attention. Meanwhile, there was a pyramid of crumpled sheets on my desk full of love confessions. There must be a reasonable explanation. It wasn't just guys in love that became my problem. The classmate sitting next to me, especially Barbara, whose boyfriend seemed oblivious to her existence and openly winked at me, was ready to burn me with her gaze. As soon as the bell rang, I ran out into the hallway like a bullet. I was typing a message to my friend as I walked. She was already waiting for me in the farthest corner of the schoolyard. "I can't go on like this. We have to do something." I sat down next to her on the grass and tried to catch my breath. Monique looked at me like I was a spoiled child who had been spoiled by her parents with presents. She was clearly jealous of my popularity. "Jane, I remembered something in class. Remember that pheromone perfume you ordered from the online store a few months ago?" I jumped up. "Monique, of course! How could I forget?" The reason for all this hysteria was more than simple. A few months ago, I had ordered a perfume of which manufacturers promised all girls a huge popularity with the opposite sex. Not that I needed this popularity or that I suffered from not having a boyfriend, but I bought this perfume for some reason. Monique then released a couple of caustic jokes in my direction, but I did not dare to try the purchase in practice. And on the day of the craze, when I was leaving for school, I spritzed myself with the first perfume I could get my hands on. Apparently, it was the same perfume. Monique smiled approvingly. "You've got a 1 in a million shot. All the guys love you, so take advantage of it." "How?" "If they're that obsessed, let them do some good. Find a job for each of them." "That's not a bad idea," I said. This evening, we have doted to the distribution of future responsibilities among my fans. For starters, we ranked all the guys, from the ones I hated to the ones I liked. "Trent is on first place?" Monique asked, surprised. "You didn't tell me you were in love with him. And what about Brad?" "I don't like him, and he's an idiot." "You're right about that." From the next day on, I started pursuing a different strategy. Instead of running away, I took advantage of the adoration that suddenly fell upon me. Walter, as the owner of the coolest car, drove me to school. Derek lugged heavy textbooks for me. Simon bought my food. Matt did chemistry homework for me. Trent took me to all the movie premieres. I loved having a crowd of fans. It was enough to learn how to control them, but my joy was short-lived. Very quickly, I became bored. On the other hand, I liked Trent and even wanted to start dating him. But the guy just kept agreeing with me no matter what I said. My main suitor didn't have an opinion at all, even though I saw him arguing with the other guys. Still, a man has to have personality. Otherwise, he's no fun to talk to. And that eternal crowd of servants looking at my mouth, always waiting for new instructions, looked strange and silly. One night, lying in bed, I suddenly decided, I don't want to be special. Let it be as it was. The next morning, for the first time in weeks, I didn't use the perfume. One day was enough for the perfume to wear off, and everything was back to normal. Walter's car was no longer under my window, and no one at school noticed me again. As I walked down the hall, Derek bumped into me and grumbled indignantly, "Watch where you're going, zombie." This case of mass hysteria didn't make it into the psychology textbooks, but I remembered it. Sure, it's cool when all the guys in your class love you and literally ready to carry you in their arms. But I think worship spoils people, and they turn into arrogant and narcissistic individuals. And I didn't want to become a narcissist. It's great to be the heroine of a rom-com, but there are no credits and no happily ever after in life. I wanted something real and special. I didn't want the girls in my class to team up and scratch my eyes out. I was relieved when it was over. At least I was in one piece. What would you do if all the guys in your class suddenly fell in love with you? Write your answers in the comments, like the video, and